Us packed for the Italian Grand Prix. It's race 14, the last one of the season in Europe. Ferrari at home and expected to deliver. But don't forget, they've only won here 3 times over the last 20 years. Here's your ITV commentary team. Martin Brundle, and first of all, a very good afternoon to Murray Walker.
Good afternoon, Jim. Now, keep it calm, be cool, because I tell you, the tension is really getting to me here. It's absolutely fantastic here at Monza. You've seen the build-up to this race. It's a great day to be on the roads in Italy because everybody is here at Monza. They are praying for a Ferrari win. Well, most of them are anyway. But the question is, will they get it? You've seen the scenario, but just let me run through a possible start situation. 2 Ferraris on the front row of the grid. Michael Schumacher still with a championship chance, and very much so. His teammate Rubens Barrichello alongside him. 2 of the fastest starters in the business in row 2. Mika Häkkinen, who has already proved twice this year that he can burst through from the second row and take the lead. Jacques Villeneuve up there in the BAR Honda, and it's Honda's 200th Grand Prix. David Coulthard is 5th on the grid. He must get more points than his teammate Mika Häkkinen if his World Championship hopes this year are to stay alive. Just down the road, as you've seen with Martin, and they'll be approaching it at nearly 200 miles an hour, notwithstanding the fact that they're going from a standing start. You can see the polystyrene blocks there which are on the old road. They've got to brake and turn in for that first turn at about 60 miles an hour. Jacques Villeneuve has allegedly been asked today if he's going to be mindful of the fact that the 3 World Championship leaders are around him. No, he said. Why should I be? What do you think?
Oh, Jacques would love to slice between those 2 Ferraris and head down to the first corner and lead a Grand Prix for the first time since '97. So he could well be the fly in the ointment. Michael Schumacher has been struggling away on his starts of recent. He said, if you look at the season as a whole, my starts have been quite good, and 7 out of 10 starts is all you can expect. It's so difficult to get these cars away absolutely perfectly. As you point out, Coulthard's somehow got to get in amongst them as well. It's such an odd race here because the tyre degradation is tiny. It's something like 0.015 of a second per lap, so they need to run the tyres as long as they can. Plus, of course, you stop in the pits at a point where, as you're stationary, cars are flashing past at over 200 miles an hour. You lose a disproportionate amount of time, and therefore it's a one-stop race, and you want to go as long as you can. As the fuel burns off, you'll get faster and faster. If you have to pit 3 or 4 laps before the others, they could find 3 or 4 seconds on you and leapfrog you during those pit stops. So it's critical to get down to that first corner and keep your position or gain some positions. Then it's settling in for the long haul. And I think the first 10 laps of this race, Murray, they will have to be mindful of their brakes while they're running such a fuel load. The cars will be absolutely brimmed up as high as you can get them, and that's nothing to do with the French strike and lack of fuel here. It's because you've really got to do every lap you can. And then when you settle into that race, look after your brakes, try and keep your fuel consumption down. It means you change gear maybe 200 or 300 revs earlier. Maybe instead of 17,000, you'll change gear at 16,700 revs, and just do everything you can to conserve your fuel and run as far as you can, maybe lap 34, lap 35 for some of them, until you have to come in for that one and only pit stop of the afternoon. But Michael Schumacher knows that the 2 men behind him, as Tony pointed out, the 2 men behind him are the best starters of the year, and there could be some aggravation.
Well, we're about to start the formation lap now. Monza is the circuit in the world that is oozing with tradition, with history, with charisma. It is about to boil over into what I feel is going to be a fantastic start for a superb race. Now let's have a look at this new chicane that they're coming to.
Michael Schumacher there absolutely burning out his rear tyres on the start line to lay a trail of rubber. He's obviously got a new tactic, and he's noticed, like I've noticed, that some circuits recently, particularly the 2 German circuits, is there's a highly gloss painted, checkered line across the start-finish line, and I think it generates a lot of wheel spin. To a certain extent, it's to the detriment of the pole sitter, and Michael Schumacher there laying, can see them out of the window here, 2 dark black lines off of his start position.
This whole track has been completely resurfaced. Here is the new layout of the Roja, the second chicane, and they go up from here to the 2 Lesmo bends, which they approach at 150 miles an hour and take at about 100 for the first and 95 for the second.
Now, if they jump any of those chicanes and it's deemed that they've made up a place or kept a place that they would have otherwise have lost, they will get a 10-second stop-and-go penalty. And I'm led to believe if they go straight on at the first corner and go down the escape route, they will be able to rejoin the race, and providing they haven't made a place, they will not get penalised. But I can tell you, when you're charging into that first corner, knowing exactly who is around you, who exactly you were in front of as you arrived, is not that easy. I think we could see, and it already says on the computer here, incident involving car 15 under investigation by the stewards, and that is Nick Heidfeld. Apparently the mechanics were working on the car on the grid.
And you remember what happened to David Coulthard when that happened? He lost World Championship points, so let's hope that doesn't happen for Heidfeld, although, to be fair, he was unlikely to be scoring. Now they're coming through to line up on the grid, riding with Jacques Villeneuve. Now, when this race starts, yes, watch the front rank, watch Michael Schumacher and watch his teammate Rubens Barrichello, but watch this man that you're riding with now, Jacques Villeneuve. He'll be in the second row on the left-hand side of your picture, and alongside him will be the other fast starter, Mika Häkkinen.
And what they're doing going to the line, without putting too much energy and heat into the clutch, remember the clutches are about the size of a man's fist. They don't like too many starts or too much energy in first and second gear, but trying to keep those rear tyres as warm as possible whilst riding the brake pedal, keeping some form of heat in those carbon fibre brake discs.
Okay, here they come. 22 of them getting into their grid positions. At the back, the 2 Minardis.
Never seen that before. Even the medical car was weaving and warming his tyres up.
Now, take a deep breath. You'll see the 5 lights appear. They'll go out. And then, when they go out, the race will start. And it is... Go! Good one, Schumacher. Schumacher's leading up to the chicane. Mika Häkkinen is already ahead of Barrichello. Now this is the crunch point. Are they all going to get through here? Schumacher leads. Häkkinen is in second place. Villeneuve. David Coulthard has come up into third place, and Rubens Barrichello is already down to fifth. And there's one of the Jaguars running wide, has obliterated the polystyrene blocks, rejoins last, and Michael Schumacher is exactly where he wants to be and needs to be, and it's Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar who is the first retirement. And wow, that's the 2 Jordans and a that's Trulli and Frentzen.
And there's many cars piling in at the back. Terrible accident there, and of course the red flag will have to come out. I can't see that they can handle that one under the safety car. There look to be far too many cars involved in that. 2 Jordans appeared to get together and then come into the back of the 3rd and 4th place runners. Safety car is deployed. I'll be amazed. And
it's David Coulthard out there, so that's the end of his race.
Yeah, but Coulthard, if they don't stop, but the arrows flew over the top of Coulthard's car. There's an arrows behind that green truck, upside down, and then Barrichello's car also in there too. And Johnny Herbert is cruising back to the pits, minus the back of his car. 1 wheel missing on Herbert's car. So now, look, they're getting ready to make a change. There won't be for Barrichello's car because he's stuck in the gravel trap. And have they got the driver out of the arrows? That's Irvine from the first chicane. But the second chicane accident, there's the Johnny Herbert picture, minus the rear wing. I'm amazed they can handle that under the safety car. I thought they really would have to red flag that one, but quite clearly, you can see Coulthard's out of the car. Both Jordan drivers, Barrichello, all, unless they throw the red now, all of those guys are out of the race, and they clearly have got that Arrows driver out of the car. And when you see a replay of that, Murray, that Arrows was flying through the air.
Indeed it was, and there is one of the shattered Jordans. But out behind the safety car at the moment with David Coulthard running in the hope that the race will be stopped and he will be able to get into the spare McLaren. You can see the Arrows and the Ferrari out there. In comes one, it's Ricardo Zonta, but the safety car is still out with Michael Schumacher ahead of Mika Hakkinen. Jacques Villeneuve has started fourth up into third place. Rubens Barrichello is perfectly okay, so is David Coulthard, so is Eddie Irvine. So that is very good news. We wait to hear about Hans-Harald Frentzen and Jarno Trulli, but that effectively, I fear, destroys David Coulthard's hopes of the World Championship this year.
That's Della Rosa that's upside down there, and I think I only got a glimpse of it, but I think it was the two Arrows, the two Jordans getting together with Barrichello. Coulthard was in front of them. Barrichello had a poor start, backed up Villeneuve and backed up the two Jordans down the right-hand side of the grid. And look, they were all very well behaved in the first corner, because actually Barrichello's bad start, and it was at the back end that there was carnage, with Eddie Irvine just failing, and a lot of cars scampering there, look, across the grass. Now that Arrows is way down the field. Now here we go, look, it's Barrichello squeezes the two Jordans together, who then run into Coulthard. Now watch closely, in the dust you will see an Arrows who was way down the field end up flashing through the air. It's amazing it hasn't hit Coulthard. Look, there it goes. It's absolutely amazing it hasn't hit Coulthard on the head.
And here we are with Jacques Villeneuve. Now look at the carnage in front of him as the BAR goes over. Now he's probably come into the pits too. And look at the wheels bouncing everywhere. There's debris everywhere. But now we are on the second lap. I haven't seen the safety car go past because, like you, I've been looking at the pictures. But here is Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, turning into the Roja, followed by Mika Hakkinen. Long gap. Look at those wheels flying everywhere. This is a replay, and they're all rolling. That's the Arrows.
Right. Oh, wow, that landed on top of Barrichello and Coulthard. Della Rosa ran into the back of Johnny Herbert. They got together at the back of the field, having a separate accident that ended up on top of the first accident, and now they're obviously attending to somebody down there.
If it's anybody, it's going to be Della Rosa. I'm just wondering whether it's the stretcher that I see with the red markings, or whether it's a Marshall.
Now here we go for a practice start. The Michael Schumacher got away. Oh, no, that was they're showing the wrong practice start there. That was the warm-up lap. Here we go with the start proper. And look, Barrichello away very slowly, which penned up the right-hand side of the grid and left Coulthard a clear run. And, of course, now the front end of the grid are pretty well spread out, so not the drama we expected. There's Irvine getting together with a Prost and a Benetton. Cars scampering across the green apron on the inside. And later on now, somehow, one of those Della Rosa's Arrows is going to run into the back of Johnny Herbert and collect up the first accident. So now the fact that they've now completed 2 laps, Murray, means if they red flag the race, which they will not do now, it would be a 2-part race. It's only if they red flag the race before the end of the second lap is it a complete reset and a restart. So all of those people, all of the drivers you saw walking around at the first chicane are out of the race.
Right, so now this is the situation on lap 3 out of 53 as the stricken Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello is craned off the circuit. Michael Schumacher, there he is ahead of Mika Hakkinen. A restart is in effect going to be a rolling one. Jacques Villeneuve is third. Ralf Schumacher has come up from 7th on the grid to 4th in the race in the Williams BMW. Giancarlo Fisichella is up into 5th position, and I fear that is Della Rosa. I don't know, let me emphasise, but if it's anybody, it's likely to be Pedro Della Rosa, and he's being attended to by Professor Sid Watkins, who is the FIA's resident doctor.
Is that a Marshall?
Well, I was wondering if it was a Marshall earlier on, because it looks as though he's in the orange overalls. But we wait for information about Pedro Della Rosa. Lap 4.
Yeah, I think I saw a bib, a Marshall's bib on, and well, we all saw those wheels and bodywork flying all over the place down there. And that is exactly what the drivers were talking about here. It happened more at the second chicane than the first, but it's 2 enormous sprints down to two very tight chicanes, and it is a recipe for disaster, and it's been very clearly demonstrated in the first lap of this race.
And meantime, of course, the teams will probably be reconsidering their strategies for coming in for fuel, because they're running along on the pilot jet in effect in this race, although they don't have carburetors. David Coulthard walking in, his race is over. Fuel strategies will probably be changed now, because instead of burning lots of fuel in the fast opening laps of this race, they're touring round behind the safety car. They're on lap 4 out of 53 at the present moment, with Irvine out of the race, De La Rosa out of the race, Frentzen, Barrichello, Jarno Trulli and David Coulthard. So out of the 22 starters, there are 16 left now. Johnny Herbert is out, so that makes 15. Alesi has already been lapped on the 4th lap of the race because of a problem he has had, and Mika Salo is the last one who is running. 14 of them are on the track now, and Mika Salo is 21 seconds behind the race leader. But that's because of all the weaving that's going on. There's no passing allowed at this point in the race, of course. They're behind the safety car. They have to wait for it to come in, and when the flashing lights on the roof of the safety car go out, they will know that it is pulling off the track into the pit lane, and the race will restart, and there is no passing allowed until they have crossed the start and finish line. So there is the safety car, and it's Ferrari behind it. It's McLaren behind it. It is BAR behind it, and then the Williams BMW, the Benetton, and Jenson Button is in 6th position. Replay now into the first chicane. There's the yellow Jordan of Jarno Trulli up into 4th position ahead of Rubens Barrichello. Eddie Irvine goes off. One of the Saubers goes off as well, and now we're back again for this replay of Jacques Villeneuve, who is currently in 3rd position, looking very handy indeed for when the race restarts.
Yes, and Villeneuve had fallen a long way, and there's that secondary accident. And now watch this car, it lands clean on top of Coulthard's cockpit and comes to rest alongside Barrichello's cockpit. Those 3 drivers have had an incredibly lucky escape.
And David Coulthard has had an absolutely miraculous year. Remember, he was involved in that terrible plane crash, and now he has fortunately survived this arrow's landing on top of the McLaren Mercedes.
Yes, I think not that we need to apportion blame necessarily, but it was quite clear that there were 2 Jordans trying to squeeze down the outside of Barrichello into that second chicane. Barrichello obviously got a decent run through Curva Grande to pull himself into line with them, and the 3 of them, Barrichello appeared to be moving slightly right, understandably, to take a line, and there just wasn't enough space. It pushed the 2 Jordans into each other, and that started that incident. But Murray, the drivers have all been talking about this since testing last week. They've been saying this is going to happen, and we all knew we were going to see that safety car this afternoon.
That is absolutely true. The Jordan drivers were, of course, under terrific pressure. They had started from 6th and 8th on the grid. Jarno Trulli in 6th position and Frentzen in 8th position. In spite of a dreadful day yesterday, they've got the Mugen engine behind them. They were looking to make up places, and they were not to succeed. But Jenson Button has done extremely well to get up to 6th position from his grid place of 12th. So he was 12th on the grid. He's 6th in the race now. We're on lap 5 out of the race now, where we've done almost 10% of the race already behind the safety car, while they are removing the wreckage of those cars on the exit to turn 2. Schumacher, Hakkinen, Villeneuve, they're dodging and diving and weaving to maintain the heat in the tyres as we go for a break, waiting for the restart. you see the end of another replay which reveals that Heinz-Harald Frentzen went plunging into the back of Barrichello's Ferrari and his teammate Jordan Jarno Trulli. We're on lap 6 now out of 53, and the safety car is still out, and Louise Goodman has got news with Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Heinz-Harald, from the pictures that we've seen, and it's obviously quite difficult to tell, but it seems as though you suddenly came through from the back of the field and into Barrichello and Trulli. Was that what happened?
More or less it was what happened. I just tried to overtake Barrichello and went down on the inside, and he for some reason braked very early, and I couldn't really turn and go on the left to overtake him, and so we hit each other. And in this moment I felt as well a back from behind. Somebody was as well pushing me forward as well.
Pretty disastrous day for Jordan, really.
Well, it is, yeah. I'm very disappointed for that, and also for Jarno. We wanted to score some points here on this race. Very sad.
Thanks.
Well, Jordan 5th in the Constructors' Championship. There are the two broken Jordans and David Coulthard's McLaren Mercedes. They'll be taking no further part in the race, nor will their drivers. And we're now on the 7th lap out of 53, and you can see there is still enormous activity. This is the exit to the Rogia, which is the second chicane as they accelerate away towards Les Meus.
Of course, we had that very long shot from a high camera of a man, we assume a man beside the track. It appeared to be a marshal. We hope he's okay. Whether he was hit by debris or whether the moment was a stressful moment or whatever, but I think the ambulance is down there at the moment to help the marshal. Louise Goodman is with David.
David, it looks like you were a real loser in that situation. It was through none of your own fault.
Thank you very much. That word will stick in my head, Louise. Thank you. Yes, you're right. The worst scenario for me. It just happened one corner later, really, than maybe we all expected an incident. I made a great start. I was really pleased with the way that went. I knew Jarno was behind me. I made it quite clear I was covering the inside going into the second chicane. Talked to him afterwards, and he said he wasn't going to go down the inside, so everything was looking good. The downside, of course, is the concertina effect, and then I think Heinz triggered off an incident and took us all up.
Probably the last thing you want to hear, but this is really disastrous for your World Championship, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it, finito. It's always fancied racing in America, though, so I'm looking forward to Indianapolis. And realistically, it's going to be very difficult if both Michael and Mika finish this race. If they don't, then it's the same as we came here, so it might still be possible. But as we speak, then try again next year.
Thanks, David.
Well, bless you, David Coulthard, for being as calm, cool and collected, not only about the accident, but about the fact that your World Championship chances, sadly, seem to have been exploded. Richly deserved by David, but it looks as though it's not to be. But as he rightly said, there's a long way to go in this race. We're on lap 8 and we're still behind the safety car, but there are still a lot of laps left. Now, Mika Häkkinen is, in my opinion, in a very strong position. And car 17 there is Mika Salo's Sauber. He's come in from 12th position and is clearly out of, looks to me anyway, as though he's out of the race. You can see he's been in for nearly half a minute now, and certainly his race is effectively finished.
I think it could well have been Salo tripping over that first corner incident with Irvine, but we haven't spoken much about Jenson Button. He's up there in 6th place. He's really gained. He's kept his nose clean through all of that aggravation. And Ralf Schumacher 4th in the sister Williams. But 3 either former or current Formula One world champions, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. We're going to a short break.
Lap 9, safety car still out. Mika Salo in the Sauber has come in, had a long pit stop while they had a look at his car. It was clearly his car that went off between turns 1 and 2 at the beginning of the race with Eddie Irvine's Jaguar. He has rejoined the race. There are therefore 15 out of the 22 cars ducking and diving and weaving there behind the safety car. Still in the race on lap 9, and that is obviously what we have been waiting for, the ambulance to remove someone who has been injured. Now, who the someone is, I'm sorry, I cannot tell you. I suspect, and I emphasise that I do suspect, I don't know, I suspect that it is a marshal. Down to the Parabolica from the Ascari bends, and when we see the light go out on the roof of the Mercedes-Benz safety car. Now, this is what I was... he will be coming into the pit lane and the race will restart. Now, this is what I was talking about, debris on the track. You were talking yesterday, Martin, about leaves on the track. I think they look like leaves more than anything else.
I think it'd be a combination of leaves and stones, but much worse than that, of pieces of carbon fibre, which are very sharp and easily cut a Formula 1 tyre that's under load. And of all the places in all the world you do not need a tyre exploding on you, it is Monza, heading into corners like Parabolica. And what happens on these high-speed circuits, initially the tyre grows a little bit when it has a puncture because it's getting so hot and you don't feel the immediate effect, and then the tyre bursts and throws you off the road. So what we've been waiting for, the cars are now cleared, the ambulance is clearing the circuit. No news yet on the safety car coming in according to the screen here, but just to let you know, out of the race are Johnny Herbert, David Coulthard, Jarno Trulli, Rubens Barrichello, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Pedro Della Rosa and Eddie Irvine. So it's Michael Schumacher leading the race behind the safety car. I notice Schumi keeps giving the safety car a bit of a prod along.
Hurry up.
And we're hearing from our pit team that the drivers are complaining about the amount of debris still remaining on the racetrack.
Yeah, very, very worrying indeed for them. They've seen what happens, and of course there is a situation now where quickly as the safety car is going, and it's going jolly quick, it's got I think a 5.4 litre V8 engine in it, and it doesn't half stomp along. But even so, it's crawling as far as the Formula 1 cars are concerned. There is always the danger that the tyre temperatures will go down, as a result of which the grip will not be as good, and as a result of which too the ride height of the cars themselves can be altered, and that can be a major problem for them. So we're now just about 1/5 of the way through the race. I'm just racking my brains. I cannot remember the safety car in a race being out for as long as this, because this is the 10th lap out of 53 that it's been out. So look, get the positions in your mind for the rolling start that's going to happen. The Scarlet Ferrari in the lead, of course, is Michael Schumacher. The silver and black car behind him is Mika Häkkinen. There's the mainly white BAR with the Honda engine of Jacques Villeneuve. The white and blue Williams of Ralf Schumacher is in 4th place. Giancarlo Fisichella, who has had 2 massive crashes in the last 2 weeks. One but in the warm-up for the Belgian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, and one here at Monza in testing, is in 5th position. Jenson Button, the second Williams, is in 6th position. Only one constructor has got 2 cars in the top 6 at the moment, and that's Williams. Alexander Wurz, the Austrian, is in 7th place in the second Benetton, ahead of Jos Verstappen, who went extremely quickly in the warm-up this morning. Marc Genet is 9th in the Minardi, ahead of Nick Heidfeld in the Prost, who is in 10th position, followed by Mazzacane in the Minardi, Deniz, Zonta, Mika Salo, who has rejoined the race, and Jean Alesi, who is running last and has been lapped.
Safety car in this lap. This race is about to restart. They're at the far end of the racetrack, so quite a long way to go yet. And now they really need to build up some speed. The pressures of those tyres need to be 17, 17.5 as a minimum, PSI that is. I bet they're down there at 13 or 14 at the moment. The cars will ride a bit lower, the tyres will not give the grip they should, and Schumacher will be very eager. I'm sure he's going to make himself a gap now. He needs to start backing away from that safety car so he can have a sprint and pick up some temperatures.
Lap 11 out of 53. And Michael Schumacher will be looking to sprint away from Mika Häkkinen. Mika Häkkinen will be watching the Ferrari ahead very closely indeed to try to get to grips with it and get through and take the lead. Jacques Villeneuve doing exactly the same thing in third position, and Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW. There he is, coming into the Ascari curves of fourth position.
So if you've just joined us, if you're waiting for this restart, to remind you, some incidents in the first corner at the tail end of the field, and then a massive incident nearer the front when Frentzen got into the back of teammate Trulli in the Jordan and Barrichello, taking Coulthard with them, and a third accident where Della Rosa went clean through the back of Johnny Herbert's Jaguar and barrel rolled. And look, there's Jenson Button. Jenson Button was warming his tyres up, and then not realising that the concertina had happened in front of him. He's got to let Fisichella back through. Good thinking there, Jenson, but he did whack the barrier.
Yeah, and Michael Schumacher, I think, was going slow and holding him up, and the race has now restarted up to the chicane on the rolling lap. Lap 12 out of 53, and Schumacher leads Häkkinen. Villeneuve is in third place. Ralf Schumacher is still in fourth position, and out of the race goes Jenson Button as a result of that coming together when he was trying to warm up his tyres and got involved with a minor collision there. Not minor as far as he was concerned, because he is out of the Italian Grand Prix. Let's have a look at it and see what happened. There you see, he goes straight off into the Armco. Now, I think if there was fault, I suspect that you could put it at Michael Schumacher's door, because he was slowing right down, as a result of which the field bunched up unexpectedly as far as Button was concerned. Remember, he's very new to this Grand Prix racing stuff. It's only his 14th race, and Schumacher is still leading. Now, no signs of change at the present moment. Ferrari, McLaren, BAR, and then behind Ralf Schumacher in fifth position, it's Fisichella, and his teammate Alexander Wurz is up there, notwithstanding the fact that he's had a terrible time in qualifying and the practice sessions. Let's hope his luck changes in this race. Down to the Parabolica, they're approaching it at 210 miles an hour.
Yes, I was about to say, and that green crane that just came across the front there, I would imagine is for Button's car to clear it out of the way. I was about to say, the whole of the British hopes remain now on Jenson Button's shoulders this afternoon, because Herbert, Irvine and Coulthard out of the race, and Jenson got caught out there. He was just putting on a sprint at the same time that Michael Schumacher was backing the pack up. Schumacher was always going to do that. He had to do that to make himself some space to scamper. Jenson a little bit unlucky, but one of those lessons you learn the painfully hard way.
Well, let's look at the points positions. One Ferrari, and there it is, Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello out of the race. One McLaren, Mika Häkkinen second place. David Coulthard out of the race. Villeneuve is in the race in third position, and his teammate Ricardo Zonta is down in 10th position. Fourth is Ralf Schumacher. The other Williams BMW Button is out of it. Both the Benettons are still running. Fisichella is fifth, Wurz is seventh, and Jos Verstappen in the arrows goes up into the points as a result of Button going out. Now, here it is.
This is Zonta passing Heidfeld for what is now 9th place. So that was back down the field as you were talking, Murray, and a move there early on by Zonta, who was the fastest man in the warm-up. So former world champion Michael Schumacher in the lead from current world champion Mika Häkkinen, who's 1.4 seconds behind, but 1.1 seconds ahead of another former world champion, Jacques Villeneuve.
And now let's start thinking about strategy. Michael Schumacher is lapping nearly a second a lap faster than Mika Häkkinen at the moment. I do not for one moment think that that means that he's on a two-stop strategy. He'll be stopping, I should think, round about lap 35 in this race. David Coulthard last year was as late as lap 36, and look at the orange arrows there of Jos Verstappen in 6th position, starting to challenge Fisichella in front of him.
Sauber straight on. Salo for the second time this afternoon. Going down the escape road, he needs to come out behind his teammate. That's where he went into that chicane. I was amazed when Michael Schumacher braked into the first chicane. Here's Salo. Now he can rejoin in front of the other Sauber correction, but will he get there in time? Apparently it's very slow through these polystyrene blocks, and Dönitz will be already hard on the accelerator. But I was amazed when Schumacher, Michael that is, came into the first chicane, just how much brake dust was coming out of the front wheels of that Ferrari. And it's going to be a long afternoon. But the pattern has been recently, the Ferrari has been using its tyres harder than the McLaren at the previous racetrack, the last 4 or 5 races. But this is a low tyre wear, low tyre degradation circuit, as we pointed out earlier.
Well, there are 2 fights on the track at the moment for 5th position between Fisichella and Verstappen, and between Zonta and Wurz, who is... There they are. There is Zonta coming through and taking Wurz. Zonta dives out of the slipstream of the Benetton as they go into the Parabolica and moves up a place as Michael Schumacher comes down the start and finish straight into the chicane. He's leading now by 2.6 seconds, and Verstappen having a go. Verstappen dives through, so the places are starting to change. We're with the Fisichella car now, and Jos Verstappen in the arrows has moved up into 5th position. 2 potential World Championship points for the Dutchman.
Here's the move now, look, Verstappen's cracked up the inside into the braking zone. We saw him in the Canadian Grand Prix, stunning on the brakes and able to turn in without too much drama, and he really does take that position nicely. Of course, the safety car scenario, Murray, will have helped them a lot. And is that...
VAR out now, is it? It's on Villeneuve. Villeneuve, so up into 3rd place goes Ralf Schumacher, to 4th position goes Verstappen, to 5th goes Fisichella, and to 6th position goes Zonta. Both the BARs are in the points.
Engine failure.
There he is out. So that's the first, the lead of the 2 BARs out of the points, and Alexander Wurz benefits from this. But what you're looking at now confirms that there are 2 people in the World Championship. Michael Schumacher, who is currently 4 points ahead of Häkkinen if he finishes in the order that he's in now, but there's a long way to go. Schumacher leads Häkkinen, Ralf Schumacher into 3rd position.
Right, Zonta appears to be on a lighter fuel load. He's now lining up Fisichella for his next target. Verstappen has indeed moved up into 4th place. But I was starting to say before we saw that shot of Villeneuve pulling off the racetrack that the 10 laps or so they did under the safety car would give them quite a margin for fuel consumption and particularly brake wear. So it's played into their hands in that respect. And here I think we're watching the Benetton trying to... now, and Zonta's just gone straight down the outside, look.
Yeah. Now, I'm really delighted to see this with Ricardo Zonta moving up through the field. He's had a rotten time with BAR since he joined them last year. He's had an awful time this year, but he was very, very quick this morning. Indeed, he was fastest, and Louise Goodman is with Jenson Button.
Jenson, that restart caught you up badly, didn't it?
Well, just a bit. Well, normally you have a restart, you're supposed to keep the same pace all the time, but Michael decided to slow down on the exit of Ascari and then accelerate and then brake, or whatever he did. But can't believe it. So everyone caught up, everyone spread out across the circuit, and I had nowhere to go. So
bad luck.
Well, that's exactly what I thought had happened, and now you're looking at a replay of Heidfeld spinning out, and his car is on the circuit. Are they going to be able to drag it back, or will the safety car go out again? The safety car is standing by, I can tell you that, as I look at the Williams and the BAR exiting the corner, and Michael Schumacher leading on lap 17.
And Ralph had a big oversteer in the middle of the Parabolica that surely gives Zonta a tremendous run at him. And I think Zonta, as they flash by, yes, Zonta's driven straight past Ralf Schumacher's Williams. Unbelievable straight line speed there from that Honda-powered BAR. Perhaps he's running a lighter fuel load, but even so, he's clearly got some amazing pace. And remember, again, Zonta was the fastest man in this morning's warm-up.
Well, now how's this for a top six? A very strange looking picture. Schumacher leading Häkkinen, nothing strange about them being at the front, but Jos Verstappen in the arrows for Holland is in third position, and he's being caught by Ricardo Zonta, who is storming his way through the field. This is his 26th Grand Prix. He's not going to be with BAR at the end of this season, but now down to fifth goes Schumacher, sixth is Fisichella. We're leaving, we'll be back. Lap 19, and you are looking at a terrific scrap for third place between Jos Verstappen in the orange arrows and Ricardo Zonta from Brazil in the white BAR. Zonta having an absolute storm of a race. He started well down on the grid and he's climbed his way up from 17th up into the fourth position that he's in now. Now, a lot of it, I admit, is due to the fact that there have been a large number of retirements due to the collision, but he was fastest in the warm-up this morning, and that car is really flying.
Yes, the problem he's got now, I'd say again, Verstappen and Zonta, easily the two fastest cars through every speed trap on the track, and he cannot just whistle cleanly past that arrows. I think Zonta has the fastest car. I wouldn't be at all surprised to find that these two drivers stop earlier than the others, but Zonta there not able to just whistle past Verstappen like he did, for example, Ralf Schumacher, both Benettons, but now he's a little bit closer coming out of the Parabolica, and will he pick up enough of a tow? Look, he just cannot quite edge up, and it's going to be a big brave move at the end, and he really is not near enough this time around.
And Jos Verstappen is not a man to be intimidated, a very gritty, determined Dutchman, and being in the position of standing on a step of the podium is something that he has only enjoyed twice in his life before when he was with Benetton. He's not going to give up easily, but Ricardo Zonta, driving like he's never driven before in a Formula One race, is pushing him very hard indeed. We've heard, incidentally, I'm sorry to tell you, that it's a fire marshal that was injured and taken away in the ambulance. But Pedro de la Rosa in the arrows is okay, no problem there. Lap 20 out of 53, and the Italian Grand Prix is led by Michael Schumacher, just under 4 seconds away from Mika Häkkinen. News from James Allen.
Yeah, Murray, I think Zonta's doing what Damon Hill did back in 1998. If you've got a fast car here in a low grid slot, you can put it on a two-stop strategy and make up a lot of places. In those days, Damon made up 7 places in the first 6 laps, and it looks to me as though Zonta's doing exactly the same. Probably quite a lightish fuel load. He will have to stop before too long. But the big question mark as he comes down towards the Parabolica, not this time, the big question mark now amongst the front runners who are on a one-stop strategy, Schumacher and Häkkinen, is how much fuel did they save during that 11-lap safety car period? I reckon they saved quite a bit, so it's going to extend that first stint quite a lot.
Yes, the teams know exactly how much they save from, and look, Zonta really has got in the slipstream this time, and I believe he's stronger on the brakes at the end too, so Zonta should easily take this place and does indeed move into third, but then moves in too far. He's gone a little bit wide on the way in, and they do somehow not touch on the way out. Very skillful driving there from Zonta and Verstappen, and now Zonta, I believe, will pull away from that Arrows.
Fine bit of driving by both the Brazilian and the Dutchman, and remember what I said, Jos Verstappen is not going to give up. He's been caught and he's been passed, yes, but he's going to try and fight back. And there's a strong battle behind them between Ralf Schumacher and Giancarlo Fisichella in respectively the Williams and the Benetton for 5th position, and it's just as close as this battle between Zonta and Verstappen is, and now that is widening. The gap between the BAR and the Arrows is getting bigger and bigger. There is Ralf Schumacher, 5th position. Behind him, Fisichella in 6th position. Wurz in the second blue car is therefore in 7th place ahead of Marc Genet, who has got Mika Salo right with him.
Yeah, the tail enders, the ones we always do the sob stories about, the teams at the back who try hard but can't get results because they don't have enough money. They love days like this. This is their chance to score some points. The reality is, if nothing special happens, 2 Ferraris and 2 McLarens take the first 4 lots of points. That leaves a 5th and a 6th available for the entire rest of the pack, and with Williams and Jordan and Benetton being such strong cars, the tail enders very rarely get a sniff of a World Championship point, and today's the day.
And remember that the man you're looking at, Michael Schumacher, is 6 points behind Mika Häkkinen, second in this race in the World Championship. If Michael Schumacher finishes ahead of Mika Häkkinen by being first to Häkkinen's second, he will have closed the gap quite dramatically. He will be on a World Championship score of 68 points. 78 points.
Slow-mo replay of Michael attacking the curb on the right-hander on the way in. They don't hit the left-hand curb so hard, it unsettles the car, and they can't quite make the exit of the corner then. So the Benetton of Fisichella hanging on gamely to Ralf Schumacher. James.
Oh, Martin, think about this. I've just clocked it. If Ricardo Zonta started this race on a 2-stop, a light fuel load, he's now entering the 1-stop pit window. He could come in shortly, fuel it to the finish, and then, of course, when the front runners, Schumacher and Häkkinen, come in and fuel up, they'll be on the same strategy as him, and he'll be right up there in the shooting match. Fantastic.
And that would be an incredible development. We've seen for so long now Ferrari and McLaren dominating. We saw BAR coming into Grand Prix racing for the first time last year and having a really torrid season in their debut year, but they're getting their act well and truly together. They've been tremendously looking forward to this race and very optimistic about it. I was talking to Alistair Gibson, their chief mechanic, earlier today, and he said, we think we can do it, and I think they can too, but it would mean the Ferrari would have to disappear and the sole McLaren disappear. And there, James, you're absolutely right, the BAR team are getting ready to bring Ricardo Zonta in. Jacques Villeneuve is already out of the race, of course.
Yes, but it's very early in the race. Zonta is relatively flying. You just saw a new fastest lap from Michael Schumacher of 26.428, and Zonta did a 26.433 on the same lap, and that's Wurz under attack from Salo. So Zonta was matching the leader's pace, but now you see why. He's got to come in the pits this time, and a tank full of gas will slow him down a lot. Louise.
Yeah, I'm here with Jacques Villeneuve. Jacques, cheers in the garage at the success that your teammate's having at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing good, and that's great for the team.
Not such a good day for you, though.
No, the car was easy to drive. It was easy to be quick. We were on a one-stop strategy, and suddenly the car stopped.
Jensen laid the blame for that accident at Michael Schumacher's door. Would you agree?
Sorry?
Jensen laid the blame for the accident at Michael Schumacher's door for slowing the pack right down. Would you agree?
Well, Michael did what you normally do in that position. I think it's everybody that's behind that should calm down and take it a little bit easier.
Thanks, Jacques.
Lap 24, race order. Schumacher now leads Häkkinen by 6 seconds. Zonta is third, nearly 13 seconds behind Häkkinen, coming into the pits now. As you look at him, that means Jos Verstappen goes back into third place. Ralf Schumacher will move up into fourth. Fisichella to fifth, and maybe even Wurz into sixth position. Good stop by Ricardo Zonta, and there is Alexander Wurz. And he is ahead of Mika Salo in the Sauber. Remember, Mika Salo's come in, he's made a long pit stop, but he is still on the same lap. Only 11 of the 22 who started are on the same lap. There's 12 runners. Pedro Diniz is 11th on the same lap as Michael Schumacher. Jean Alesi is running in 12th position, but he's already a lap behind the leaders.
Well, Zonta stopped only for 7.2 seconds, which suggests that they have not topped the car up. And thinking about that, remember we were saying every car's brimmed on the start line. That second corner shunt, the car's upside down. It's staggering that we didn't have a fire. Something we covered in one of our technical pieces recently, but impressive technology there that they'd all got well over 100 litres of fuel on board, and not a drop of it spilt out of the cars in the spectacular incidents of the first two chicanes.
The interesting thing is that the two drivers who are leaving their teams this year, Ricardo Zonta and Alexander Wurz, that we're looking at, are doing extremely well in this race. Wurz there in the blue Benetton, resisting the efforts of Mika Salo in the Sauber to get past him as we rejoin race leader Michael Schumacher. Is this going to be the third time that he's won the Italian Grand Prix? He won it in '96 for Ferrari, his debut year with the team. He won it the year before last in 1998, and there is Salo getting past Wurz at turn 1, keeping his line on turn 2 as they accelerate away.
Yes, I thought Wurz probably should have still managed to close him out there, even if he pushed the pair of them wide. Salo going the long way round with the cleaner side of the track to brake on, but nice move there from Mika Salo. He's been across a couple of chicanes, looking at the computer, he's noted up, but clearly didn't take an advantage from that. Remember, he made a pit stop under the safety car to check. He had an incident with Eddie Irvine in the first corner of this race, but now Salo making his way through. He is up into 6th place.
And there is Mika Häkkinen second. I'll tell you something that surprises me, Martin. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW, which has been extremely quick this season and was terrific in Belgium and went very well here in the opening stages of the meeting here at Monza, is in 4th position. He's behind the flying arrows of Jos Verstappen, who is still there in 3rd place. Coming towards us now, you can see Salo. Behind Salo is Wurz. Then there's the two Minardis of Genet and Mazzacane, who are 8th and 9th. Pedro Diniz is Sauber 10th. Behind him is John Alesi in 11th position.
Well, Zonta is not going to bother Michael Schumacher or Häkkinen. He is now effectively running last but one, having made his stop. He's got a very fast car, light traffic on the circuit because of those retirements early on. Heidfeld, Jacques Villeneuve, Jenson Button, Johnny Herbert, Coulthard, Trulli, Barrichello, Frentzen, and Zonta just easily goes through on the Prost there, so takes that position, no problem at all from Diniz. So Zonta still with a fast car, but as he's on a two-stopper, he will not bother the front end of the field.
He was passing Jean Alesi, who is still running there, albeit a long way back. Just the single Prost left. Now you can see visually the gap on the track there between Schumacher in the lead, Mika Häkkinen in 2nd position. And try as Mika may, he can't do anything at the present moment about that lead that the Ferrari has over it. The crowd is pretty quiet here. They are on tenterhooks that a Ferrari will win here at Monza again. And that's the man that can do it, because Rubens Barrichello out of the race, and the gap now between the Ferrari and the McLaren is 7.3 seconds, and Schumacher is continuing to lap faster than Häkkinen.
Yes, Häkkinen has never yet once completed a lap faster than the same lap of Michael Schumacher, so that's why he's built that 7.3 second lead. There's Zonta coming through. A podium is up for grabs for Zonta. I think Schumacher and Häkkinen are too far out front with too much fuel on board for Zonta to have a go at them, but look how easily he's able to slice his way through the field.
He's got to stay on the inside there and force the Sauber out and keep the inside line, which he does. it would be very ironic, I must say, if the first podium for the BAR team is occupied by Ricardo Zonta rather than Jacques Villeneuve, because the Canadian is very much their lead driver in terms of experience, ability and income, of course. But Zonta doing a fine job at the present moment. Lap 27 out of 53. The fastest lap we've had so far, that of Michael Schumacher, 1:26.4. There's no point in comparing it with the fastest lap last year or any fastest lap in the past, because the circuit is different this year. It's not just that it's been resurfaced, it is that instead of there being a double left-right at the beginning of the track before the grand curve, there's just the new right-left chicane, and the second chicane, the Rogier, has also been extended to give it a bigger run-off area. We're leaving Monza, but we will, of course, be returning. Lap 30, and while Italy holds its breath that this man in that car, Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, will stay where he is in the lead, and he's yet to come in, of course, for more fuel and new tyres. Ricardo Zonta is the man to watch in the BAR. He was third, a brilliant third from 17th on the grid, fought his way up, then he's come in and stopped, taken on more fuel and tyres. He's clawing his way through the field. He's past Mazzacani's Minardi, he's past Genet's Minardi, he's up into 8th position, and we have more news from James Allen.
Well, it looks to me, Murray, as though Zonta couldn't quite make the fuel last long enough to reach the one-stop pit window. I reckon another 4 or 5 laps and he would have been able to do it. Nevertheless, a podium still possible. This can be a lot of work for him. Not being cynical for a second here, Murray, but he's getting himself an awful lot of TV for Honda, of course, on their 200th Grand Prix. But onto the front, the leaders, I reckon Michael Schumacher's got less fuel on board than Mika Häkkinen. I reckon Michael's going to stop before too long, next 2 or 3 laps, and I think Häkkinen's going to go about 3 or 4 laps longer on the stint. We're entering a very, very interesting phase of the race now.
Yeah, Zonta is indeed getting a lot of TV for Honda, but you get what you deserve in this world usually, and he certainly deserves it, and so do they. Michael Schumacher, lap 30, is 8 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen, and although we haven't seen anything of the orange arrows of Jos Verstappen at the present moment, it is looking at the present moment, provided he can finish, that he's going to be on the podium, because he is in great shape. But will he finish? He's already had 8 retirements this year. This is the 14th Grand Prix of the year 2000. And you saw Zonta there pulling away, and now you look at the Sauber and Jean Alesi in the Prost, that very, very gallant French Sicilian, who will be continuing, we hope, with Prost next season, and they, we believe, are going to have Ferrari power in 2000.
New fastest lap then for Michael Schumacher. Remember, we said tyre degradation virtually nil, but as the fuel load comes down and down, the track cleans up, rubbers in even more, despite the running through the weekend. Michael Schumacher now on a 26.00, well over half a second faster than Mika Häkkinen. The lead now up to 8.5 seconds. Alesi, I couldn't quite work out why he was around De Nitz, because he's not racing him really. He's actually a lap behind already before this, which seems as if it's a scheduled stop, Murray.
Yeah, the most Grand Prix by any Formula One driver, Riccardo Patrese, 256 of them. This is Jean Alesi's 181st Grand Prix. He's driven in more than any other current driver, including, of course, Michael Schumacher, who crosses the line now. He is into his 32nd lap. He's still got to come in and take on fuel and tyres, but all the time the gap between him and Mika Häkkinen is increasing. Now, if Schumacher wins and if Häkkinen is second, the gap between the two of them in the World Championship, with Mika Häkkinen still in the lead, would be reduced to 2 points, with 3 Grand Prix still to come. And Indianapolis in America, that we're looking forward to so much, in 2 weeks' time. Then to Suzuka in Japan and Sepang in Malaysia on October the 22nd. It's going to be a real cliffhanger of a World Championship.
Yes, blue flags are out already for Mazzacani to tell him the lead Ferrari is bearing down on him.
Yeah, I suspect the Italian marshals will not be at all slow to show blue flags to anybody that's in the way of Michael Schumacher and Ferrari.
It's done on computer mostly, the information to them. There's a line every 200 metres, a sensor every 200 metres of this racetrack, and the computer works out the relative positions of all of the cars, and then a little blue dot comes up on a screen, and then the information is given out to the marshals by radio. Mazzacani is still ahead of the Ferrari, but Schumacher should clear him easily without cost down the pit straight. The star of the race for me is not only really Zonta, but more so even Verstappen, up there in 3rd place, 18 seconds behind Häkkinen, and he clearly has got quite a fuel load on. And look, Mazzacani is not making it at all easy for Michael Schumacher, and they both lost time. That was pathetic driving there.
Yeah, and no indication of irritation or annoyance or anger from Michael Schumacher. He sort of metaphorically shrugs his shoulders and says, what can you expect, and on he goes. And there's confirmation. Look at this replay. Now, Mazzacani should have yielded by then. He'd been shown blue flags, but he held on until the very last moment, forced Schumacher wide, and into the pits comes Jos Verstappen from 3rd place. Now, Ralf Schumacher, as I say that, goes through into 3rd position, but of course he has not stopped. Indeed, Jos Verstappen is the first of the current top 6 to stop for more fuel and tyres. This is lap 33 out of 53.
Not a bad stop there. I think they probably would have liked another second off of that, but Verstappen was 6.1 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher when he made that stop. He has stopped relatively early, but he will surely get to the end of the race with that fill-up.
Yeah, and you're looking at it's moved up. Fisichella has moved up into 4th position, and Alexander Wurz is continuing to go well indeed as we look at the Benetton now in front of Riccardo Zonta. Now, Zonta will be moving up into the points if he can get past the Benetton. I have absolutely no doubt that he will do so, because his last lap was 0.6 of a second faster than that of the Austrian Alexander Wurz in the blue Benetton. We're on lap 34.
Well, there we have it. Finally, Häkkinen has gone faster than Michael Schumacher, 3/10 on that previous lap, and that is not including the time that Michael lost negotiating and being extra cautious around Mazzacani's Minardi. So Mika has pegged the gap at 8 and a bit seconds, and now just clawing it back slightly.
And Jos Verstappen there ahead of Pedro Diniz is down to 8th position. So this race is a long way from being run. Mika Häkkinen starting to speed up, only 0.3 of a second, but every 10th counts. The gap at the present moment between the leaders, Schumacher and Häkkinen, 8.5 seconds on lap 34 out of 53. And Ricardo Zonta has a look from behind the Benetton. The door is firmly but politely closed in his face by Alexander Wurz, and into the pits comes the Minardi of Marc Gené from 9th position. Now, he was about 2 seconds behind Diniz. He was 16 seconds ahead of Mika Salo. Salo in 10th position. And here is Michael Schumacher thundering down the straight into the chicane to take and pass Jean Alesi, who has already been lapped.
Yes, and I think I saw Jean doing the right thing, just getting off the racing line. If you're that far behind, you don't make the race leader go down the dirty line of the racetrack. You blend in and let him go through and save yourself both some time. And Alesi doing that. Zonta getting out of shape under braking, losing a little bit of ground there to Wurz. So Zonta then, as you can see, lost quite a lot of ground through Ascari, just locking up the rear slightly on the way in and having to correct the car.
Well, let me tell you a bit about Ricardo Zonta. He lost 4 races last year when he crashed in practice for the Brazilian Grand Prix and hurt his foot quite badly, had to recover from that. But this is a man who has been test driver for McLaren, and he may well go back to being test driver for McLaren next year. Now that Olivier Panis is going to be driving for the BAR team next year. He is their current test driver. And then Zonta was Formula 3000 champion and the Mercedes-Benz GT champion, so he comes very highly recommended. As inside the Minardi goes Schumacher, there is Häkkinen, who has already now lapped, as of course has Michael Schumacher. Mazzacani, we're on lap 35, just coming through to lap 36, and my goodness, they are staying out late.
Yes, all of the drivers involved in the first 2 corner incidents have been called to the stewards after the event. So even though they all escaped with some pretty lucky not to have serious injury there, but it will not be any surprise to any of them. They will not be heading for their jets at the airport and looking forward to the next race. They know they have. If you're involved in an incident, a major incident of any kind, you always have to stay at the track. And I even left the circuit once to go to the airport and was dragged back to the racetrack when Gerhard Berger ran into me in the Canadian Grand Prix. Actually hauled me out as I was checking in, and I had to go back and give my side of the story, even though I was not at fault. And that's a requirement on the day. So none of the drivers will be surprised, but Zonta may be surprised. He cannot clear this car of Wurz. Remember, though, Wurz has a lower fuel load now. Zonta trying to go the long way round, and Wurz closing him down.
Battling for 5th position on lap 36. And since Zonta has been in and Wurz has not, I think it's inevitable that their places are going to change. Here is Michael Schumacher. 40 times a winner already. A most incredible record this man has got. Over 50% of the Grand Prix that he has finished in, he has been on the podium in 1st, 2nd or 3rd position. Is this going to be his 3rd Italian Grand Prix win? Well, he's on lap 37, 53 laps altogether, but he's still got to come in and refuel. He's still got to have those tyres changed, and so behind him has Mika Häkkinen, who has now lost time again to Michael Schumacher. He's lapped some half a second slower than the German on the previous lap.
Yes, Michael Schumacher had 2 bad laps clearing the traffic, and he's responded immediately with that new fastest lap of 1:25.6. So Michael Schumacher does appear to have a bit of speed available to him should he need it later on in the race, and he'll be very comfortable with that 9.5 second lead. There's nothing Häkkinen can do with the size of his fuel tank, and that's Zonta in for actually the 3rd time this afternoon. In the murky depths of my mind, I remember seeing a BAR with a punctured front right. I think he pitted under the safety car earlier, and we know he's pitted once for fuel already, so he did a short middle stint. Now he refuels to the end of the race.
And Jos Verstappen goes back into the points. You probably saw the arrows. Oh, very short stop. Very short indeed for Ricardo Zonta. And Verstappen is back into the points in 6th position. 5th is Wurz. 4th is Fisichella. Both the Benettons in the points. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW is 3rd, but has yet to stop. Mika Häkkinen 2nd, yet to stop. Michael Schumacher that you're looking at now, leading by nearly 10 seconds and pulling away from Mika Häkkinen, but yet to stop.
Yes, and while you were reading those times from the screen, Murray, Michael Schumacher was leaning heavily on the side of the racetrack through the second Lesmos there. He really is putting the hammer down at the moment for some reason. He's just done a new fastest first sector of anybody in this motor race so far, and he at this point in time wants to increase his lead for whatever reason. We know that they've given Häkkinen a mixture sign. Lean up the engine, I would assume it means, and try to run a little bit further, but I can't see Häkkinen being able to go much further than Michael Schumacher before they have to stop. Remember, they're stopping so late because they would have used a fraction of the fuel in those 10 or so laps behind the pace car.
Well, 2 men for the Ferrari are leading this race. One of them, Michael Schumacher, who's driving it, and the other is Ross Brawn, their master English tactician, who is sitting in the pit lane there, reading the race and calling the shots and talking calmly to Michael Schumacher. The two of them worked together at Benetton when Michael Schumacher had his World Championships in 94 and 95. And Ross has clearly divined something which is telling him, making him tell Michael Schumacher to speed up a bit. And the something could well be that Mika Häkkinen, for instance, has just done the fastest first sector of all. We're going to keep an eye on this gap. It's just under 10 seconds at the present moment. Race leader there, Michael Schumacher, is on his 39th lap. So there are 14 laps to go. He will come in, he will take on comparatively little fuel to keep the car as light as possible, to give it the maximum performance. Less weight to brake and stop, less weight to accelerate and get going again. And there, the Minardi running very wide indeed, with Mika Häkkinen coming up behind Mika Salo. That is Marc Genet, who is in 10th position. This is a replay. The Sauber going through, and Genet rejoining the track in front. Now, it's irrelevant whether he's going to be penalised or not, because in fact he's 1 lap behind them.
Yes, he's yielded too. He's let the Sauber go through, which I think was the smart move. He quite clearly saved a position there effectively, but they're at the tail end of the field, would clearly have cost Mika Häkkinen some time, and he's already now 10.5 seconds behind Michael Schumacher.
There's the Ferrari team. They're getting ready to bring Michael Schumacher in on the 39th lap out of the Parabolica. Down to you, good and early, James Allen.
Yes, it's all looking very tidy indeed for the Ferrari team here. There's no tension at all. They're all pretty relaxed. I think they're going to go about this in not a leisurely way, but they're going to not make any mistakes and get him back out again. 10.5 seconds is a good margin here. Häkkinen, of course, will take the lead, but we expect Häkkinen in shortly.
Well, Mika Häkkinen has gone through, and there is Michael Schumacher exiting the pit lane. Where is he in relation to Ralf Schumacher? And there is the new race leader on lap 40 out of 53. Now, James forecast, and rightly so, that Mika Häkkinen was going to be staying out 2 or 3 laps longer than Michael Schumacher, so we can expect him to come in round about lap 42. But meantime, he's in the lead, and of course, Michael Schumacher has got a lot of traffic to carve through, because tail-enders have gone through following Mika Häkkinen, who has at minimum lapped them. But now, on the 40th lap out of 53, it's the Flying Finn at the front of the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. He has never won this race, and you just caught a flash of Michael Schumacher there. He's down to well down, because he's just got ahead of Mazzacane, who is in 11th position, but had been lapped. So Michael Schumacher is stretching away from the Minardi. Lap 40 into the Ascari curves.
Well, remember, they're already 39 laps into this race, so they'll all be, or should be, very short pit stops. In fact, 7.2 was relatively leisurely, really, for the amount of fuel that's got to go into the end of the race. Michael Schumacher, I think they were cautious. There's a couple of seconds I think they could have had they have chosen to do, but that 10.5 second lead, we now know exactly why Michael Schumacher put that 3 or 4 laps sprinting after having trouble through the back markers. Obviously his pit stop was imminent and he needed to ensure he had a comfortable margin over this man Mika Häkkinen, and I can't see any reason why Häkkinen can take that full amount of 10.5 back, but I think he'll have some of it, Murray.
Yeah, so do I. Let's just remind you, in case you've only just joined us, what happened at the beginning of this race to decimate the entry. Eddie Irvine ran wide in the Jaguar and went out of the race at the first corner, but much more importantly, a gigantic collision involving David Coulthard, Jarno Trulli, Rubens Barrichello, Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Pedro de la Rosa took all of them out. And I'm glad to say that none of them were hurt. Very damaged motor cars, of course, but that reduced things. Then Jenson Button went out when Michael Schumacher slowed the field so much, waiting for the safety car to pull off, that there was a minor Button had to run wide and hit the Armco, so out of the race he went. Jacques Villeneuve has retired and Nick Heidfeld is out of the race. John Alesi is running 12th, 2 laps down, and Mazzacane, Genet and Deniz have similarly up to 9th position been lapped. Only 8 cars are on the same lap. Mika Häkkinen, there he is, leading, and he is decreasing his lap time, increasing his speed, with the knowledge that Michael Schumacher has been in for his 1 pit stop, and that Mika Häkkinen must now really go for it. He's not going to be helped if the Sauber in front of him doesn't move over and let him through.
Yes, remember here, and I'm sure he'll be remembering, although they've actually effectively taken that corner away now, Häkkinen had an easy lead here last year and hooked first gear, made a simple mistake and threw himself out of this race. He'll be mindful of that, but he must press on now, otherwise Michael Schumacher has this race in the bag, barring any mechanical problems.
With 11 laps to go, Michael Schumacher 5 times a winner this year, Mika Häkkinen 4 times a winner this year. But Mika has been absolutely mega in the last 4 races. He won in Austria, 2nd in Germany, victories again in Hungary and Belgium, and out go the McLaren mechanics to get Mika Häkkinen in for his stop as the Finn exits the Ascari curves, goes at 210 miles an hour down towards the Parabolica. Slows down to 110, accelerates away. He will dive into the pit lane now, and this stop is crucial. James Allen.
Yes, this is going to be very interesting. Schumacher's stop took 21 seconds total lost time. That's how much time he lost when he came in. Here comes Häkkinen. He will be around just 5 or 6 seconds down on Michael Schumacher. If he can get out of here, stationary time of less than about 7 seconds. It's very fast by McLaren, a lovely stop. He'll be about 5 or 6 seconds only down, Murray.
Now let's have a look. There is Schumacher, and in the background you see Häkkinen exiting the pit lane as Schumacher dives past the Prost and puts it between himself and the 2nd place man now, Mika Häkkinen. So it's down to the last few laps. They're on lap 43. It's a 53-lap race. They've both completed their single pit stop for fuel and tyres, and it's down to the 2 top drivers of the day. Double world champion Michael Schumacher, 1994 and 1995. Double world champion Mika Häkkinen, 98 and 99, trying to become one of the very few people who have achieved 3 successive world championships. Alexander Wurz into the pits from 5th position. Nice stop. It didn't take on very much fuel, so he's out in just 6.1 seconds stationary period on the tarmac. So Schumacher, now he's coming up to Marc Genet to lap him again. Marc Genet, the Spaniard in the Minardi. Now look back and you should see Mika Häkkinen. Yes, there he is, exiting the Ascari bends again behind Mazzacane, and again Mazzacane, as he delayed Michael Schumacher, is delaying Mika Häkkinen, who gets through on the inside.
Yeah, well, pathetic having used the same word of the same driver twice in the afternoon. I mean, what is he up to? It's not difficult to see here, long enough straights. Not like there's any blind corners and a lot of hedges in the way, is it? But Häkkinen there, he was already further behind Michael Schumacher than I expected to see him coming on that straight down towards the Parabolica, but that certainly fixed it, and I don't see any pace that Häkkinen is going to have to close that gap, as Ralf Schumacher comes in, really, he's not the last of the front runners because Fisichella's just behind him too. Fourth place man Fisichella in the pits too. Third place man at the moment. There's Fisichella just squeezing in front. A good stop there for the Williams team again in the sixes, and that puts Ralph in good shape. Can Zonta and Verstappen do anything about it? And is that Benetton running? I don't think so.
Well, already Ralf Schumacher driving for Williams BMW in a season that they both expected to be a pretty poor one, because it's BMW's first year back in Formula One since 1953. Fisichella spinning his wheels. This is ruining his chances.
Yes, what they'll have to do is start it up in gear and drop it off the jack if they can, but it's not that easy because the jack will go down the pit lane with the car if they're not careful. That is very, very difficult problem to sort out. It's stuck in gear. He clearly cannot find neutral. They need to start it up. Look, they're turning the tyres with the starter motor. It's going through the system and they cannot get that engine to fire.
And we've already seen Johnny Herbert when he was with Benetton sprinting out of the pit lane with the jack still attached to him. Fortunately disconnected, but this is terrible news for Giancarlo Fisichella. He's losing points.
Now he's got to hit the neutral button, and now he should be able to pull a gear and away. So what happens, he stalled it, and he stalled it again. He's lost the clutch. So Fisichella there, unable to get away, and he's got to hit the neutral button within a couple of seconds while there's some residual energy in the system, and clearly he's not able to do that.
Well, and this is something, of course, you can't practice for. They can practice to replace a nose and a wing, and they can practice, as they do, until they're blue in the face to replace tyres and refuel, but you can't practice for this. And Fisichella is staggering out of the pits. He just manages to engage a gear, and remember, there's a mandatory speed limit, but now the order is on lap 55, and you watch this replay of Fisichella for heaven's sake, start me, start me, start me. But the positions on lap 45 out of 53, coming towards us, race leader Michael Schumacher, who is now 11 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen. Ralf Schumacher looks as though he's going to retain that third place ahead of Jos Verstappen. Alexander Wurz is fifth in the points. Ricardo Zonta. We're going for a break. Seven laps to go. Remember that this Italian Grand Prix ran for the first 10 or 11 laps behind the safety car after that gigantic collision in the opening stages of the race, which took out some of the leading contenders. But at the present moment, it is certainly looking very good indeed for the man you've just been looking at, Michael Schumacher. We're looking down now at Mika Häkkinen. So they're on their 47th lap now in this 53-lap race with a gap of just under 10 seconds between them. Mika Häkkinen made up a bit of time, like half a second on the previous lap. To be exact, the gap was 9.9 seconds. Here is Schumacher coming up to the Sauber as he exits that now notorious first chicane. A lot of people forecast problems, and we certainly had them. And Mika Häkkinen is through on the lap behind him. Michael Schumacher closing up. He's going to go through, and it's a nice, polite bit of driving. And Schumacher has got clear track ahead of him. He's got the Sauber between him and Mika Häkkinen. The gap is still 9.2 seconds. And this World Championship that's been such a cracker this year, with Michael Schumacher winning 4 of the first 6 races, is really developing. Going right down to the wire to the last race in Malaysia. Pedro Diniz now in the Sauber in 8th position between the Ferrari and the McLaren. As you look at Ralf Schumacher, now he's lapping marginally quicker than Jos Verstappen. Ralf Schumacher looks as though he is going to finish in 3rd position for the 3rd time this year. He did it in Australia, he did it in Belgium, and I was saying earlier on that, bearing in mind that last year's Williams was not the best car they've ever produced, that's Häkkinen passing Marc Gené, not the best car they'd ever produced, and that this year they got an entirely new car with an entirely new engine, and it's a fantastic combination. The car is good, the engine has exceeded everybody's expectations, including, I think, to be fair, BMW's, and they've had a lot of World Championship points. Ralf Schumacher has already scored 20 World Championship points. His teammate Jenson Button, a terrific introduction to Formula One racing, has scored 10 World Championship points, and the result is that Williams are 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, as you watch Michael Schumacher now undoubtedly pacing himself on the 49th lap. He's got lap 50, lap 51, lap 52 and lap 53 to go. I said earlier on, Italy is holding its breath. No more so then than now. If Michael Schumacher wins and Ferrari win again, which is not something they've done all that often at Monza, which to Italy is what motor racing is all about, the whole of Italy will erupt. They literally ring the church bells in Italy when a Ferrari wins. They could be tolling them again this evening.
Häkkinen now definitely eating into the Schumacher lead, but it's coming down about 7 to 8 tenths of a second of a lap. He'll be quite near at the end, but I believe Michael Schumacher's got it under control. Can't see any problems, and there's the sign that Häkkinen's about to see. You need binoculars here to see your pit board. It's such a long way away from the side of the racetrack, and that gap is now down to 7.6 seconds. So, of course, the information Häkkinen gets, unless they tell him over the radio, it's always a lap wrong, out of sync, really. But now down to 7.6 seconds. That was Häkkinen's fastest lap of the race, and he is homing in on Michael. He can put as much pressure as he can, trying to force a problem from Michael, or his brakes or something like that. But Häkkinen, really, I don't think he can pull that 7.6 out and overtake the Ferrari. No. Michael has led this race from start to finish.
Neither do I. Ralf Schumacher is 3rd, 6 seconds ahead of Verstappen. Arrows look as though they're going to be well and truly in the points. Not if the Wurz there is in 5th position, closing up on Jos Verstappen's arrows. You can see the gap. Ricardo Zonta for BAR looks as though he's going to get another World Championship point. Certainly not that podium, which, when we didn't know the fuel strategies, it looked as though he might be achieving this race. Lap 50 then. And behind Zonta, it's Salo in 7th place. His teammate Pedro Diniz in the 2nd Sauber is 8th. Marc Gené and Mazzacane are 9th and 10th in the Minardis. Fisichella is staggering around a lap down after that terrible pit stop that he had. And Jean Alesi is still running, 12th out of the 22 who started, 10 retirements, and he is 2 laps behind the leader, who is now coming up to Mika Salo. And Mika Häkkinen has just made the fastest lap of the race. He's not giving up, he's really going for it. He is coming up to Pedro Diniz. So the 2 leaders are both closing up on a Sauber.
Yes, so the gap down to 6.2 seconds then with that new fastest lap of Häkkinen, and that really is eating into that lead, isn't it? But he's still got the traffic to clear. You just saw Michael go through the foreground there, and Häkkinen having to work pretty hard, but cleanly through into the second chicane, and now he'll be able to see Michael Schumacher just half a straight ahead of him when he gets out of the second of these two Lesmo corners, and that will certainly fire him up. But is there enough time left? I don't think so. But I wonder also if Verstappen's got a bit of a problem in fourth place, because Wirtz took a lot of time out of him on the previous lap, and they're now shaping up for a good fight for fourth place. Zonta not really able to make inroads into Wirtz, and he's in sixth.
Well, I have to tell you, I was forecasting that Häkkinen would win this race before it started. Ferrari are having a bit of a renaissance here in Italy. They didn't have the best of races in Belgium or Hungary, because although Michael Schumacher was second in both races, he was beaten and well and truly by Mika Häkkinen. Now we're into the 52nd lap in this 53-lap race. Michael Schumacher obviously thinks he's in control. I'm not going to say he is, because that could be quite the wrong thing to say at this stage of the race. But 5.9 seconds is the gap on lap 52 with 1 lap to go after this.
Yes, you can't help feel that Michael's playing a little bit. Saw him taking a rip-off off his visor, going down into Parabolica on the previous lap, clearly picking up a lot of dirt and debris as he's lapping these cars. But no signs, and there's Häkkinen. Ever closer look, must be less than 5.9 seconds now. But as you said, Murray, just 1.5 laps to go.
Yeah, one of the all-time Grand Prix cliches is catching is one thing, passing another, and that would certainly apply if Mika Häkkinen actually caught Michael Schumacher, who's coming into the Ascari curves now for the 52nd and last time. Because if Mika Häkkinen was sitting on the gearbox of the Ferrari, there wouldn't be a repeat here, I think, of the situation we had in Belgium when he so brilliantly took the lead from the Ferrari coming up to Les Combes, and they both lapped Ricardo Zonta. Michael Schumacher is now out of the Parabolica, down the start and finish straight, over the line very shortly to start his 53rd and last lap as Mika Häkkinen follows him through. There is the leader into the chicane. Turn 1, turn 2. So Michael Schumacher, he won in Australia, he won in Brazil. Then his third victory of the year was the San Marino Grand Prix, followed by the European Grand Prix and the Canadian Grand Prix. And it really does now look as though it's going to be his 6th Grand Prix victory of the year, as Verstappen has got Wirtz right behind him, 4th and 5th.
Yeah, that's actually Fisichella, who, of course, had that very long pit stop and is out of position. Maybe, I don't think Verstappen, unless his radio's gone down, will think it's, he may think it's Wirtz, but it's not. Wirtz is actually 7 seconds down the road. It's a recovering Fisichella, who's currently down in 11th place and a lap behind.
Michael Schumacher looks in his mirror to see whether Mika Häkkinen is there. He is there, but he's far enough back for Michael to be able to pace himself home to victory at Monza. He won in 96, he won in 98. He's going to win again in the year 2000, and there is Mika Häkkinen behind him, and now Italy can truly erupt. The Tifosi and the Ferraristas see Michael Schumacher win at Monza and Italy and close the gap between himself and Mika Häkkinen in the World Championship, finishing second there, down to 2 points. David Coulthard's World Championship hopes are over. Rubens Barrichello's are as well, of course. There was a remote chance that either of them could win the World Championship if they won the remaining races. But now it is a fight to the finish between Häkkinen and Schumacher as we wait for Ralf Schumacher to come home in 3rd position for the 3rd time this year. And you look at Verstappen with Giancarlo Fisichella behind him in the Benetton, exiting the Ascari Benz. Now look back and you should see Alexander Wirtz in the blue car. There he is. So Verstappen is going to have a magnificent 4th place. and that will be the second highest that he's ever finished in a Grand Prix. He's had a couple of third places for Benetton. Great news for Arrows. They've really fought for this, and they thoroughly deserve those World Championship points. Schumacher Michael wins. Hakkinen Mika is second. Schumacher Ralph is third. Verstappen Jos is fourth. Wurz Alexander is fifth, and Ricardo Zonta gets that World Championship point for BAR. Mika Hakkinen now 2 World Championship points only ahead of Michael Schumacher. He was 6 points ahead when this race started. David Coulthard still in third position in the championship, notwithstanding the fact he scored no points here. Rubens Barrichello the same, 4th position. Ralf Schumacher closes the gap in 5th position in the Drivers' Championship, but is still down there with Fisichella 6th.
Michael, many congratulations. It's your 6th win of the season, but you've not had one for 6 races. You've done it in front of your home fans, the Tifosi, so you must be delighted.
Yeah, I think delighted is the wrong word. I have no vocabulary for anything higher than that. I'm sorry, but I'm just happy. I'm just exhausted and... yeah.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but this is your 41st victory, which puts you in equal second all-time with Ayrton Senna. Do those records mean a lot to you?
Yes, it does mean a lot to me. Sorry.
Thanks, Michael. Nick, for the last 2 races, Michael's been, I think, magnanimous enough to admit that on the day you had the faster car than McLaren. Do you think today that Ferrari was just a faster car?
Can we have a break? Go to Ralph. Ralph can continue.
Okay, Ralph. Ralph, you're unique of the 3 drivers we have here because you actually saw that very big second chicane incident. Can you perhaps talk us through how you saw it and how you managed to avoid it?
Well, basically, I just saw a lot of dust coming out and car parts flying around, and Jack and me managed somehow to go around, but it looked really terrible. I mean, well, someone was hurted as we saw, but I don't know who it was.
Talking back to your own race again, when you actually were driving along, you saw Riccardo Zonta and Jos Verstappen drive past you. Do you think, oh dear, I'm on the wrong strategy?
Well, we always knew that some are on the lighter strategy, but you know, as Monza is on the longer strategy, you usually have the upper hand, and we were quicker than Verstappen at the end of the day, and I knew that we could be quicker than Zonta, so I didn't worry too much.
Back to Mika now. Thank you, gentlemen, for your perseverance in live television. Mika, said before, I mean, do you think that today for the Ferrari was the faster car compared to the McLaren?
I'm sorry, can you ask again?
Do you believe today that Michael had the faster car? He said in the last couple of races that you had the faster car.
A little bit, yes. Not much, but enough.
Now, when you came out from the pit stop, you actually then went, despite the fact it was very, very unlikely you were going to be able to catch up Michael, you actually went and put in a series of very quick laps, including fastest lap of all. Why was that?
Well, we made some modifications during pit stop, and it made a balance of the car better, but not enough, obviously, and the gap was too much for Michael, so it was impossible to catch him, and also back markers was a couple of Minardis was not quite a pain, you know. They didn't let overtake so easily, so I lost maybe 2-3 seconds because of that. But end of the day, that's not the excuse or anything. But and I believe that Michael did not have no reason to anymore to push maximum anymore that time. So that was the situation.
Michael, are you okay to go on? Yeah. You are obviously very emotional about this. Why does this mean so much to you?
Ask me another question, please.
Perhaps we should just go straight to the own languages for the... thank you very much for everybody, guys. Perhaps you use something in German, please, Michael.
Dankeschön an alle, die das heute möglich gemacht haben. Natürlich das Team im Vordergrund. Sorry, mir fällt nicht viel ein heute.
Mika.
No ei tässä tietysti tarvitse turha pettynyt olla, koska tällä hetkellä vielä johdetaan mestaruutta ja luonnollisesti niin tässä on vielä kilpailuja paljon edessä. Ja jatkettava maksimaalista keskittymistä ja oltava rauhallinen ja löydettävä hyvät säädöt ja rytmit seuraaviin viimeisiin kilpailuihin, ja uskon, että sen avulla me pystytään saavuttamaan se, mitä me tähdätäänkin, mutta niin kuin sanottu, niin toinen sija on se sija, milloin se on se ensimmäinen sija, jolloin hävitään, eli totta kai voi olla vähän pettynyt, mutta mestaruutta johdetaan jollekin jalat maassa vaan ja jatketaan eteenpäin.
Hey Mika, and finally Ralph.
Ja, ich bin natürlich happy, dass wir zum zweiten Mal hintereinander auf dem Podium stehen. Ich glaube, für uns war das fast undenkbar. Ein anderes Mal haben wir gezeigt, dass wir die dritte Kraft in der Formel 1 sind, was natürlich für uns ein Riesenerfolg ist. Zum Zweiten freue ich mich darüber, dass mein Bruder heute wieder gewonnen hat, sodass wir alle die Frage, oder dass er auf die Fragen, die in den letzten Wochen gestellt worden sind, mit dem richtigen Wort oder mit der richtigen Art geantwortet hat und dass wir jetzt endlich wieder Rennen fahren können.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Thanks a lot.
You.